In today's video, we are doing a deep dive into Bitcoin's short-term and macro price actions, as well as the total altcoin market and the total market cap. We're going to be discussing the implications of the recent correction, why Bitcoin is still undoubtedly bullish, and the key levels you need to be paying attention to moving forward. Let's jump on in. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. In today's video, we are taking a deep dive into Bitcoin's short-term and macro price action, discussing the recent move toward the downside, the newfound levels of support, the likely next directional moves for Bitcoin, and everything else you need to know about the macro charts and even the altcoin market cap. Before we get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos of Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us on Telegram. It is the first link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, economic news, relevant information, and everything you need to stay in the loop with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, and of course, the upcoming news events. Before we get into it again, if you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, you can join us with over 700 members in our VIP group. We post trading setups with exact entry prices, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more. You'll also get access to all of our group chats, our general chat, our trading chart and education chat, our daily video chat, our news, and our help chat. Again, over 700 members in here. Check it out by clicking the pinned comment in the free channel. You can click my name to get access, or these links. The first one being a 50+ month trading track record. Not many channels out there have that recorded, and again, a video showing you inside the channel itself. Check it out, do yourself a favor, and we'll see you in there. Let's dive on into the video, guys. So as we can see, over the past 24 hours of price action, Bitcoin has managed to do two things. Number one, it has managed to bounce toward the upside, retesting our prior highs at 102,000. And number two, it has established and retested a prior level of support at 94,000. If you do remember back to our videos about a week and a half ago, maybe a little bit more than a week and a half ago, we had this short-term horizontal consolidation developing under that 99K resistance. The low of that horizontal consolidation was in $94,000 region. As we can see, we have come back to retest 94,000, establishing this as a support resistance flip and pushing back toward the upside. So we have a very important level of support here, which has confluence with our diagonal uptrend. We'll be discussing this in more detail. We can also see over the past 24 hours, we have had a positive momentum shift, which is a very good sign, indicating again the buyers are back in control of Bitcoin's price action. If we take a look at the total market cap very briefly, we can see the total market cap has managed to bounce back up again, momentarily dropping into that $1 trillion level, sitting at 1.06 trillion, and the total market cap over here again suffering its first near weekly red candle ever since the break of the prior all-time high. We have a lot to discuss. We're going to be going into detail on everything we just said. We're going to be talking about our expectations and targets, invalidations, and even the macro chart. So let's jump into the trading data over here, the liquidation data, before we move over to the DXY. Looking at this, we can see over the past 24 hours, volume is down 34% at 246 billion, still very high, with liquidations down 60%, 249 million, still very high, 154 million coming from shorts, 94 million coming from longs, telling us again, a lot of people would have jumped into late shorts upon the breakdown and the drop for most altcoins, and again for Bitcoin on that recent flash liquidation. Now, we posted in Telegram a few days ago, or this is yesterday, saying on days after mass liquidations, you really have two choices. The choice number one is you can jump into trades expecting a mean reversion. Now, a mean reversion is simply expecting after large and excessive swings in any direction, you're expecting the price to come back to a mean average price over the next few hours, days, weeks, depending on the time frame of that correction. And number two, you can be patient and wait for these exhaustion structures to develop and then trade the reversals. So in this instance, again, we had seen both of those things occur. We saw a mean reversion on a lot of altcoins, and we're seeing some exhaustion structures develop across the market, which is a good indication. Moving over to the DXY is still sitting under a range high. Again, we're not really too interested on DXY over here. Provided this range high holds as resistance, we are still expecting corrections toward the downside. Nothing that really matters over here is of any significance. We are more or less watching this resistance and expecting continuations. Only if we break above this level of resistance would we then be expecting a different scenario to play out, which will be a continuation higher. And the S&P 500 really holding that weekly level. And again, this is a pattern we have seen play out almost religiously for the past 2 years. And that is simply upon the break of high points, we generally either retest those highs or do not retest those highs, but what we notice is that we always remain above it. As you can see, we have our breakout, we have our retest, we create a high, we do not retest, we create a high, we come down and retest, we create a high, we come down and retest, and as you can see, we've created a new high and we've just retested it. So again, I will re-emphasize that I will remain bullish on the S&P 500, provided our high levels are able to sustain. If we do break down this high on the weekly chart, we drop back below our high at $6,000, I would then be expecting a short-term correction into our lows at 5,700. And if we drop below 5,700, I will be flipping bearish. But until then, I remain bullish. That is it, guys. Let's jump into Bitcoin. Now, before we do yourself a favor. It's going to take 30 seconds. Click the links down below, BitGet, BitUnix, or BingX. Choose one of them. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15% off all your trading fees. That can build up to 45% off your trading fees. A massive game-changing discount there for you. Also get a bunch of rewards and bonuses by signing up. Most importantly, you'll support yourself in your trading journey, and you'll even support me making this content. I get very little from making this content from YouTube, so that is a way to support the channel further if you were interested. Check it out, guys. Play ad, and we'll jump back in. If you are looking for a new exchange or just want to support the channel, sign up to BitUnix with the link down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45% based on your trading volume, as well as access to a bonus reward center, and of course, all of the exclusive campaigns we run on this exchange. You'll also get access to BitUnix being a non-KYC exchange, meaning you can sign up from anywhere in the globe without regulations. And most importantly, I only promote exchanges I trust and I use. As you can see, I trade on BitUnix very regularly, being the highest VIP level with over $500 million in trading volume for the last 30 days. And lastly, if you were interested in signing up to our other two exchanges, BingX or BitGet, you can also do that via the links down below. You as well will get the 15% trading fee discount and everything else that comes with it. Go ahead and sign up. Thank you for supporting. Let's jump back in. Okay guys, let's jump back into the video. We are taking a look at Bitcoin dominance, the total market cap and the total 3 market cap to start, and then jumping into Bitcoin. So as we can see, the total 3 market cap is still showing a hell of a lot of strength. And we mentioned in our prior videos, we're going to go over it today. When we see these historical all-time high breakouts and we move into these altcoin seasons, or these next legs toward the upside, and we are seeing that according to our historical data. If we look at our historical data, back in 2021, we had 3 points of confirmation, which essentially confirmed that we were entering an altcoin season. And that was simply, 1, we had Bitcoin dominance dropping at the time of which Bitcoin created a local top, at the time of which the altcoin total 3 market cap broke its dead cat bounce high yearly resistance. We saw all 3 of those things occur at the same time, and that is what triggered a altcoin season. In this instance, we are seeing all 3 of those things occur at the same time, which indicates we are currently in an altcoin season, and we have been in an altcoin season since around mid to late November. So we're like week 3 now into altcoin season. And we had seen a pretty significant flush for altcoins. In fact, this was the largest flush for altcoins since 2021, wiping $1.7 billion in liquidations, $1.5 billion in long liquidations over the course of about 4 hours. The largest correction since 2021 in terms of liquidations. And that was mostly an open interest flush due to the large amount of leverage positions built up over the course of the 2 weeks upon a lot of altcoins going up 500%, 400%, 200% in a very short period of time. Now, as we mentioned, corrections are not always bearish, just as rallies are not always bullish. We have to look at the overall trend and we have to look at invalidation points. Historically, what we have seen is even in these aggressive parabolic moves upwards, even in these expansion phases where we move into altcoin season and risk asset markets become even hotter, pullbacks are essential and they are common. What we saw back in 2021 cycle is even during this rally upwards, which was essentially the altcoin season, right? During that period, we essentially saw altcoin season up until that first major drop for the market at around 64,000. That entire 18-week period, we saw numerous corrections, even over here on the weekly chart. Some of these corrections spanning 1 day, some of these corrections spanning multiple days. As we can see, we saw a 27% correction. We saw what was this one over here? A 31% correction, and we even saw a 26% correction. And this was all while the market was in this aggressive uptrend. So what we have seen now is essentially the first major correction, which is about 12% post all-time high breakout for the total market cap. And it is expected we see even more of these corrections moving forward. The most important thing is that during these corrections, the integrity of the trend remains stable and intact. The correction is noise unless we break down our invalidations and our trends. So let's take a look at that, guys. If we look at the total 3, the 2 levels we are watching, number 1 is going to be a horizontal level. This is simply going to be our prior level of historical resistance, the altcoin season trigger. I'm going to move everything out of the way for a second. The altcoin season trigger, which is going to be the 840. Provided we remain above 840, we are bullish on the total 3, expecting continuations toward the upside. Number 2, we are looking at the market cipher A, and most importantly, the market cipher A, I just want to go ahead and show you my own settings. These are my own personal inputs. It's a custom indicator, okay? I've adjusted the EMAs to my liking. The one I look for here on the total 3 is going to be the 50 EMA. Provided we remain above the 50 EMA, the trend is aggressively upwards. Again, the EMAs are volatility indicators. We want to keep this aggressive volatility bullish, essentially during this entire phase upwards like we saw in 2021 in this altcoin season. Although we saw these large corrections during that altcoin season, which enabled either retests of the 50 or the price action to flush very close to the 50, the 50 EMA was able to sustain until that breakdown point, which is when we saw these large 50, 60, 70% corrections for altcoins before the next leg toward the upside. So we need to see that 50 hold. So provided we see the horizontal level and the 50 hold, I will remain bullish on the altcoin market. Let's move over Bitcoin dominance and we'll jump into Bitcoin. As we can see, Bitcoin dominance is still dropping. We have hit that major point of resistance, that liquidity pocket from back in 2021. Now we have seen this breakdown occur at a perfect time, which is essentially the same point in time we saw that correction for Bitcoin, that local top from 104th of Bitcoin, similar to what we saw back in 2021 over here. So we are seeing Bitcoin dominance drop at an anticipated time, a expected time, and we have seen numerous things occur. The first most important thing is we've lost this major uptrend for the first time since we established it all the way back in 2022, and of course we've also momentarily dropped below that 50 EMA. So we are in the downtrend here. The downtrend is not an aggressive downtrend, it is just beginning to warm up into a downtrend. So the majority of the volatility expected from rapid drops in Bitcoin dominance has not occurred yet. Will it occur? There's no guarantee, but it does look like it's developing to the point of which could facilitate the aggressive drop in Bitcoin dominance. Again, Bitcoin dominance will unlikely drop towards 38%. We might see a drop closer to 42, maybe best case scenario. We have to see how that plays. But again, Bitcoin dominance dropping, the total market cap increasing, altcoins are expected to do well. Let's move over to Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So as we mentioned, there's a few things we want to take a look at, and there's a lot going on in this chart. So I want to go level by level, thing by thing. So let's start off with our horizontal levels. Let's discuss the important horizontal levels first and foremost, and then talk about why these levels are important, the invalidations and the triggers, and then move over to diagonals and then discuss our technicals. So I want you to focus right now on these gray boxes. These are going to be our liquidity levels, our sell side liquidities, our buy side liquidities, and just structural levels of significance in terms of historical support levels and demand levels where we've seen the price action react bullishly to and even bearish to. Every single one below the current price action is a critical level of support. And these are critical. We mean these are very important levels of support. First and foremost, we've got the POC level. This is going to be sitting at 99K. We know 99K was a critical level of resistance for many, many days before we saw that break an explosive move up to 104,000. We've got our second level of major support sitting at 94,000, a historical level of horizontal support we have established and held above since the 28th of November. And then we've got our lower levels of liquidity, our sell side liquidities sitting at around 91,000, not 89,000, and a very, very significant high time frame support sitting at that $86,000 level. Let's start off from the lowest to the highest, because the lowest is essentially the most significant in terms of the macro, and the highest is the least significance in terms of the macro price action. Okay, so highest, most important short term, highest, least important macro, lowest level, most important macro, least important short term. So let's discuss from the macro upwards. The most important level we need to hold above for the price action to essentially remain bullish on the macro charts, and that is not essentially entering a bear market, just bullish on the macro, preventing a larger correction, would be 86,000, okay? If we drop below 86,000, it is highly likely we'll see a larger correction to fill this low historical volume gap, okay? Essentially either establishing a brand new support somewhere between these two levels of support, or filling this sell side liquidity week, this liquidity gap over here at 76,000. Okay, that is worst case scenario for Bitcoin, and that is why we need to hold above 86,000. Essentially, the easiest way to look at this would be, while we remain above 86,000, we are expecting the price to continue well into the $120,000+ region. Okay, that is essentially the easiest way to look at this price action. If we take a look at our levels between 94,000, okay, and 86,000, we have got two other levels of support. These sit at 90,000 and 89 to 88,000. These are simply just our sell side liquidity levels and potential areas of mass liquidations. And again, as we know with mass liquidations, we sometimes see mean reversion, we sometimes see the price action reverse. So these are going to be our reversal points for Bitcoin. If these levels are reached, we would be looking for reversals. We would not be aping into positions immediately as the price action touches these levels. The reason being is because we do have lower support, but we'll be watching for exhaustion structures to develop. As we mentioned, there are two methods. In that instance, we'll be patient, watching for exhaustion to develop and watching for the bulls to signify they are regaining control of the price action for reversals to take place. Looking at 94,000. Whilst we remain above 94,000, we do not expect any of these lower levels to be reached. Upon the breakdown of 94,000, we would be expecting the measured move of this horizontal region to play out toward the downside, which you can see would take us immediately into this lowermost level of support. So bullish while we remain above 94,000. Theoretically, we could come back down to retest it before we continue upwards. That is as simple as that. Let's talk about the bullish trigger points. If we are able to break above 102,000, the level of which you can see we are currently retesting with a degree of resistance over here, we are expecting a new all-time high for Bitcoin. Okay, for a new all-time high, all we need to do is clear this level, hold above this level, show strength above this level, and bang, we are likely going to a new all-time high. Immediately and already on the 4-hour chart, you can see a degree of uncertainty around this level. We do have a doji candle printing at this region. If we zoom into an hour chart, we do have a sell signal printing on our custom indicator, again, right over here at this level of resistance, indicating essentially a preliminary negative momentum shift. Now, generally, when we do see negative momentum shifts at resistance, it could tell us that we are seeing exhaustion moving into these level of resistance, and the probability for first a correction to play out before we break upwards is likely. It doesn't tell us anything about the potential depth of the correction. It doesn't signify how deep that correction could go, other than the fact that we are likely going to see some sort of rejection from here, which we already are seeing play out before we eventually see a breakout. So we know that on this attempt, at least so far, we have not cleared this region, and we could look for lower levels of support. The lower level of support we'd be watching would, worst case scenario, be our change of character, which is sitting at 98.3k, okay? And best case scenario, we are watching our prior lows, so sitting at around 99.7 to 99.4 as potential reversals for equal lows before continuations. That is it for Bitcoin. As you know, the price action is very, very choppy. We have no clear identifiable structural developments occurring. So it's very hard to see, because remember, our structural developments are representations of the decisions buyers and sellers are making over time, and decisions are consequences of their emotions and thoughts. So when we do not see identifiable structures, it is hard to gauge how the market is really thinking about the price action, other than the immediate short-term reactions at key levels. So we have to be more broad and general in our assessments, and that is why we're saying we're watching these higher time levels of support. We're putting biases there, assuming we're going to see continuations while these levels hold, and we are watching those invalidation points. So again, Bitcoin very choppy. I'd be more cautious on Bitcoin, but I'd be cautiously optimistic because the charts are still suggestive of continuations upwards. They are still bullish, and that's the most important thing we have to take from that. Let's quickly move over to the macro charts, and then we'll wrap up the video. Again, the macro charts are still looking fantastic. We are watching the Vortex Trend Indicator for a retest. We have numerous methods of potential top dates. The first one being the 4-year cycle. The second one, of course, being the 12 to 18 bar theory, none of which have actually printed yet. None of these have been met, and again, if we do not see these met, we are not expecting a top to be in yet. So it is unlikely the top for Bitcoin is in. It is more likely we are seeing macro continuations, which what the charts are really suggesting in terms of the short term and that medium term time frame. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a fantastic day. We'll dive more into the macro charts tomorrow. We did run out of time today. I'll catch you then. Bye.